Hi guys, welcome back to the barn. And the first thing we need to do is set the router table up. Okay, so I've got 3 router cutters. I've had these a few years. I bought them on eBay and they're absolutely brilliant. But the ones that we need at the moment are these two. Firstly, this cutter goes around all 4 sides of the door frame. And once we've done all 4 sides of the door frame, then we cut the rails to length, so the inside of the frame, and then on the ends of the rails, we put this profile on, which then matches this profile. Then once we've done these 2 cuts, we put this beast of a cutter in and machine this mould on the edge of the panels until the panels fit into the grooves in the stiles and rails. So there's a 4th pass of the router, but I'll come on to that when we've done the rails and stiles. So the first thing I need to do is put this cutter in the router, fine tune this to the height that I like with enough moulding, enough depth of moulding, and then I need to ferry backwards and forwards between here and the bedroom because that's where all the materials are stored. And as I do them, I'm going to bring them out and put them back and bring them out and put them back, because even though it's quite a nice day today, I don't want the timber to soak up the atmosphere in here. It's stored in there with the atmosphere, the humidity that the doors will be used in. So let's get this cutter in and go and get a piece, and then we'll do a test cut until we get the right height. It's the first time I've used this for a project. 3-0. Rip roaring, free scoring bantams. Right, bit of off cut. So that's as moulding, that's as groove. Might just be a tad deep there, that's quite not much left there, so I might just move that up a tad, a millimetre or so, which on the router table is down. Let's go and collect some wood from the house. I know it's been a while, but just to remind you, these are made out of knot-free parquet flooring. There's that groove in the back, which I couldn't get rid of because of the grooves in the back of the parquet floor. These were all cut to size and regularised through the planer at the beginning of January, and the 6 panels that sit in there are glued up over the Christmas period, and actually that formed the last video of my 12 days of Christmas. Got a splinter. Okay, so that all along sides done. So we finished with that cutter. The next one now is actually probably the most faffiest part of the build, and that's to router the ends to match this profile. Basically the cutter puts the opposite of that shape on and a little stub tenon, which is 10mm long, which means I need to cut all these rails to length first. So I'm going to set my crosscut station up, and this is the only little bit of maths you need. The doors are 500 wide Off that, I need to minus the width of these stiles, which is 55mm. So that leaves me with 490mm, but then I need to add another 10mm on each end, or 20mm in total, to form the stub tenon that goes in here. Doing a final check here. Those are 500mm, that's 393mm. And onto that I need to add 20mm, so that's 413mm. 413mm. That's as target, and that's when we got the mould there. And it's counter 1. There, like that. That dimension's 500, that is 393, but that dimension between there and there is 413. Set us fence up then. 413. Cut a bit of scrap, make sure everything's all hunky-dory before we cut all the stiles. $413. Whilst I've got my Benchdog set up, I might as well just cut the rail lights as well. So the door lights are 960. I made the stiles a metre just because there were 2 metre lengths that I bought the material in. I left them long so to eliminate the plainest knife. I'll set this now to 960 and then I'll finish with the Benchdog. Okay, so that's our rails and our stiles now cut to length. Now, other than just keeping one of these to try for the next stage, all these can go back in the house now, back in the warmth. And then I need to set the router table back up, and we'll put these across and put the little stub tenon and the coping cut on. So just as a bookmark, today is the 9th of March, and it's the first day this year we've had as lunch outside. Spring is just around the corner. Hello, Gracie. Wow, that sky looks a bit black over there. The router table's back on, and now I've got to swap this cutter for its evil twin. So we're done with that cutter. We don't need that anymore. And I need this one. And this is where we have a little bit of faffing around, if I'm honest. So I need to alter the cutter now. Forms a complete mirror image to what we've just machined. And just getting the setup is just a little bit finicky, because you are talking of fractions of a millimetre between right or wrong. If you don't get it right when you put the two joints together, you end up with a step on the face of the joint, and then you're going to be sanding for ages. So it's just a case of spending the time to make sure that the cutter's set up correctly. That looks okay, but I won't actually know until I actually machine one. We'll lock it off there for now. We'll put the fence back on. I'll set the bearing that's in the centre of this cutter to the fence and fix the fence back in place. So you can see this distance between the two cutters here is where it forms the tenon. So when I machine this, I need to machine it like that across, which means two things. Firstly, I've not got a lot to keep it square, and secondly, when I run over the cutter, it's going to break out the back of this. So I need to make myself a little push block, which does two things. It keeps it square and resists that breakout on the back. But it's really easy to make. You don't have to go to town with this. You could, by all means, spend time making an elaborate push block, but it doesn't actually have to be that elaborate. Let's see what we can find. So something like this will do the job. First of all, I need to make sure it's square. and that's okay. Secondly, I'd be better with an handle, but you could just screw any old block to that. And lastly, block over the top just to keep this down. And sometimes what is a good trick is get a little bit of sandpaper, and when you screw that block down, screw the sandpaper in it, and then it just helps to grab the piece of wood. And then as you push that through, you know it's square, not got as much breakout on the back. So let's just make that happen. Let's have a look. Oh, there's a big spider there. Plane that off, that too. So that's as square. This is an offcut of what I made these doors out of anyway, so it's exactly the same thickness. Just need something for an handle now, something out of the offcut pile. Go. This is basic push block. Not rocket science. There we go. Just a bit of scrap sandpaper. Don't have to be anything more elaborate than that. That like that. Another couple of screws. And there we go. Nothing more elaborate than that. 3 pieces of wood, piece of sandpaper. Can now put that there, push that through, keep it square. So that piece of offcut that we've just used here, that's what I've just made this and this handle from, we'll use that as a scrap because, as I say, it's exactly the same thickness of that. So we'll use that as a piece of scrap and we'll put a cut on it and see what it looks like. Put my ear defenders back on, set my vacuum cleaner up. So I think I've nailed it first time. What I forgot to mention is you've got to do them upside down. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Let's put one of these on the end of all 12 of them. And then the frames are finished. Okay, so that should be our frames done. That is our frame complete, and it's actually measures 500mm. What's the chance of that? So that's it for tonight for me. It's dark and cold now. But next time we get to play with Big Bertha, which is a panel cutter. So we've got the 6 panels glued up. Now I've put the grooves and got the door together, I can establish how big my panel needs to be. Basically, it's the inside sizes of them grooves, less a couple of millimetres just for movement. Cut them all to that size on the table saw and probably my Benchdog station as well. And then run that around, taking a small chunk off at a time. This is where we end up knee deep in sawdust. But that's for next time. I hope you enjoyed this episode. The next one will follow in the next few days for part 2 before you can see the doors finished.